Assalamualaikum dan salam sejahtera. Anda sedang menonton Bisnes Awani bersama saya Syarkawi Salahuddin. Integrasi institusi kewangan dan perbankan memainkan peranan penting dalam merealisasikan pembangunan komuniti ekonomi Asean AEC pada 2015. Bagi mengulas lanjut integrasi industri kewangan dan perbankan Asean, wartawan Shein Shanin sempat bertemu dengan Profesor Kewangan London School of Economics. Beliau juga pernah berkhidmat sebagai pengurus besar dan ketua pegawai eksekutif Bank Penyelesaian Antarabangsa. Dan kita ikuti temu bual dengan Professor Dr Malcom Knight.
Now, Professor, thank you so much for being with me today.
My pleasure.
So let's talk about ASEAN integration in the banking sector. What do you think should be done, especially in ASEAN economies, to actually create this sort of integrated economy? Now, you can pull from your experiences with NAFTA, perhaps.
Well, I think ASEAN central banks, first of all, have done a great deal to strengthen their relations among themselves, to look at issues relating to crisis management and liquidity provision in scenarios that are challenging, and that is very, very important. Is the cooperation among central banks. That's already there. Financial integration has to be much broader than just the banking system. It involves the payment system. It involves financial markets. It involves investment firms, securities firms, and all sorts of other entities that are involved in the financial system, including even, for example, mobile phone payment systems. So this integration is really, really essential to integrating the regional economy. It's always a big challenge in any region. And I think the key issue here in this area of integration is to ensure that countries adopt regulatory systems for the financial services industry that are consistent across countries. That's really crucial, because without that consistency, it's very difficult to have a financial system where the institutions can act across borders in the free way that's needed. So that's very, very crucial, and that is something that I think the regulators in the Asian region are very conscious of and are working well on in the context of the G20's program of global regulatory reform.
Right. And how does one actually get all these different cultures together? Because, as you know, ASEAN is an eclectic bunch of cultures. To actually streamline these regulations, is there a trick to it? I mean, like, if you look at the European Union, there are so many different cultures there as well. But at the same time, there was a common goal, a common vision. Do you feel that's the same in ASEAN, or it might be slightly different?
Well, I think there is always there are incentives for countries to protect national champions in any industry. But I think in ASEAN there is a real regional incentive. This is an area which has a pretty significantly high saving rate. It also has a lot of investment opportunities. And I think there's a widespread feeling in the region that it's very important to make the compromises necessary to get regional financial integration, so that Asian savings are not first being intermediated through large global institutions headquartered in other regions like Europe and the United States, and then coming back to fund Asian investment activity. Why have that roundabout process? Why not have a system which is sufficiently homogeneous across countries that the savings can go directly from one country in the Asian region to others where there's high investment?
But I think one of the major problems that ASEAN is facing at the moment is the fact that there is quite a lot of unrest in neighboring countries, and I think that there are key major countries in ASEAN which would actually be able to hold up the rest of the bloc. How would the regulatory environment be able to actually contain that?
Well, I don't want to talk about the politics of the region, but I think that I believe that the regional leaders have shown that they see the importance of trying to obtain the long-term benefits from harmonization of the regulatory infrastructure for financial services. There may be some countries at the present time that are pushing this more proactively than others. But over time, I think that the dialogue is quite intensive. The economic situation is conducive to this. The thoughtful management of the macroeconomy is really, I think, a good example for other regions. And so that provides a good basis for reaching compromise on some of these issues. That said, it's going to be very hard and it will take time. Yeah. But the gains from it are very substantial. The way, you know, we talk in North America about ending too big to fail by the Volcker rule and so on. The best way to end problems where large institutions get in trouble, and then it's the government and the taxpayer who have to bail them out, is to have a resolution mechanism that can be managed by the regulators and by finance ministries in the region in a way that ensures that the costs of failure are borne by those who are most directly involved, not by the taxpayer. In order to do that, you absolutely have to have consistent rules about ownership, about responsibility for the way the firm is operated, and about what happens when things go wrong.